Okay.
If I scoot over too far, I'm going to
This is
fall
fine.
off. So.
Yeah, so my name's Jeff, first of all.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Sue.
I'm Bill.
Sue, good to meet
Oh,
you.
sorry, scratch.
Bill.
And Bill, okay. And you've heard the question, and I'm pretty sure we know what the answer is, but I'd love to hear your story. So the question is, what do you think happens after we die? And then I'll just ask questions from there. So.
If you know Jesus, you go to be with the Lord.
Okay.
If not,
If you're a believer, which I think that takes place in the heart, there's all these things about saying a certain type of prayer, going up front and all that, which I used to think you had to do that, and I'm sure that's a good thing, but it's a heart transaction.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
And have you both, like, maybe everyone's got their own story, I think, you know. So Sue, maybe you first. How long were you? How would you describe how you came to know the Lord?
well, our stories are similar because he had a good friend at work, and it was like we've been friends forever, and it was like we used to hang out with them. Like, okay, they got religious all of a sudden, you know. And we're like, so eventually they shared their testimony with us, how they'd been saved and all that, and then Brad gave Bill his Bible so we could take it home. And then they invited us to their church, and Bill was familiar with it, but it was all new to me. I mean, I had not heard about having a relationship with Jesus, had not heard about that, and went to their church, and then someone gave me a 4 Spiritual Laws book, so actually sitting on my couch with the 4 Spiritual Laws book is how I asked Jesus in my heart, and then went up the next day. Or the next time we went to their church.
Yeah.
Well, that was before we had kids, and so I'd say 40 years ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And did you have either of you have any kind of a church background before that?
Yeah, I think I actually became a believer when I was 14 at a church camp, fundamental church camp. But then when I got back home, you would have never known it. For the next 20, the next 15 years, 10 to 15 years probably. And then I guess maybe mine was more of a recommitment, and with Sue it was step one.
Had you ever heard anything like?
I was raised Catholic, and then when I got to college, like, just threw it all out, partied, and
Yeah.
I threw out the baby with the bathwater.
Yeah. That's the story of many people. Around leaving home time, they have to decide: is this faith I was raised in, is it my own, or
it was in my head. It wasn't in my heart. It was just answers to questions that we learned in catechism. It was just in my head.
Yeah.
That's all it was.
Yeah. And both of you, like, so these were friends that you had known for quite a while, or?
He had, especially.
Brad was probably my closest friend all through high school. And we remained close. And then after him and his wife got saved, they just had this burden for us that was, I mean, God used, they were the main vehicle for us to really make a commitment.
Yeah. And
so I knew him from the 7th grade on, and we'd always stayed in touch and lived in the same area and all that. So
did you see any actual changes in his life?
Oh yeah. So we're like, they got religious. We always thought it was her, like, pushing this religion stuff on him, you know.
They'd ask us over to their house to eat, and the only reason I even went is because he was so close and I didn't want to disrespect him. I remember telling Sue, we're going over there and eating, we're getting out of there right after. You know what I mean?
God had other plans.
You knew that they were, they had, I guess, an agenda, right?
No, well, I don't know about that.
You know,
that didn't occur to me.
I knew they were pure in their motives, but I think there was probably conviction maybe in there, and we didn't really know it at the time.
Yeah.
That made some of that uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Plus that they made such a radical change, I didn't want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had no idea what it was about, so.
And so, do you feel like they shared anything about their beliefs with you personally, or was it just just having you come to church with them?
No, Brad, we worked at what was called GTE at that time, was General Telephone, if you
Oh,
remember that.
yeah.
And him and I worked together, and at work, on break and stuff, in our truck, in his truck, and he wouldn't overdo it. He would just drop sincere little nuggets here and there. And then when Sue and I went, I don't think they weren't preachy at all. I just remember he got choked up one night when we left, and give me his Bible to take home.
Oh, okay.
They share their testimony.
So it was definitely a part of the conversation. It wasn't.
Yeah, like after dinner.
Yeah, I mean, I think back about it now. I was like, whoa, yeah.
That's cool.
They moved. We still see them once in a while. So.
The reason I'm asking is because we have in America, I think now, what's called an attractional church, attractional evangelism, which means go to an attraction, go to a Christian event, go to a church service. So people aren't really encouraged to go out and share their faith directly. It's more like go out and get to know people and be friendly with them and then bring them to church,
Yeah, and we have those around where we live.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, and we've had things.
Seeker-friendly churches, but I've noticed we have a young pastor who's awesome. He's awesome.
Yeah.
But it seems like the new thing now is they do try and, it's not the old line conviction, the Holy Spirit thing. It's more of they try to slowly integrate people, and that's fine the way they're doing it. I mean, it's a
well, and then that whole that's called felt needs. So in other words, you might not feel the need for salvation, but you feel the need for God's blessing in your life in this way or that way. And the Bible does contain a lot of wisdom, and there's a lot of principles that we can learn from the Bible that work in our lives. And I feel like all of these different ways are ways in which God has worked and does work in people's lives. Bring people to church. God anoints certain speakers that it just seems like they can communicate the gospel in a way that no one else really can, or not too many, in a blessed way,
And when we are the young ones, meet other young people that are believers in that, and see what's going on in their life.
Yeah.
And it's not so much like it used to be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we go to church in a university town, so
Okay.
there's a lot of students. And I noticed Sunday that school was out because of finals were done, and I noticed we were missing students. But I read we support a couple that is on staff with Campus Crusade, and they just said they sent their newsletter. And Jenny and her friend were walking through the student union, and saw two girls, and their one friend's like, let's go talk to them. Just like kind of random.
Yeah.
And I forget what they asked them as a break the ice kind of question, but it was like, I know it was like, what do you think happens when you die kind of thing. I can't remember the question, but the two girls are like, we were just talking about this. And the one girl was an atheist, and one girl, I don't know if she's a Christian, but she was at least churched.
Yeah.
And but that nudge to go talk to them, and they're like, and they sat down and had a wonderful conversation with them.
Yeah.
Just off the cuff.
And you have all these different cultures now coming in, and the people.
The international students.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we have
these Robert and Jenny. They were at our house last Wednesday, and we were talking, and they said you even have to learn about the culture and that to communicate what the gospel even, because they see things so different.
They went to India this summer with some students with Career. They went and did kind of a missions kind of
Yeah.
thing, so.
Yeah, I find even with non-international students, I think we need to paint a picture, a more complete picture of who God is.
Yeah.
And kind of go back all the way to Genesis in saying that our relationship with God has been broken, but yet we have a moral conscience that we break all the time, so we know better, So I talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
But we can't just assume people. It used to be that, do you know Jesus, and they knew exactly who you were talking about, and
Yeah.
they have they if they're not Christian, they at least have a biblical perspective, or a little bit of biblical literacy. They know some of
Right.
the stories, and they know
Right.
who God is.
And they don't
And,
now. The
no.
young people don't. I forget the huge portion said, like, they've never been in a church. They have no idea, and
Yeah.
they have to start, like you said, basics.
So that's what I'm trying to promote, is that we get in these kind of conversations, like before anyone's even really going to come with me to church, unless, like, we have to have these conversations,
Why would they come with you?
Right, yeah.
They don't
Why
know
would
you
they
at
see
all.
a need for that?
I remember Jenny was telling me about this one girl that came from like a upper class family, and Jenny asked, what do you know about Jesus, or, and it was, do you remember that? It was something like, well, he's a figure at Christmas. I mean, I couldn't, and she didn't even know hardly what a Bible was, and they had to start like from real basic,
Yeah.
and this was a Caucasian girl, American girl born here, and she was just clueless.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that too.
Yeah. If you look at my channel, you'll see some international students I've talked to that, one guy recently from China, just like, he'd seen the cross, of course, you can't avoid that, but and probably seen some images of a person and knew that was Christ on the cross, but no idea why he's there, or what that's all about, or anything, So, yeah, so the other part of it is, I think, as an immigrant nation for a long time, church was seen as a great place to go and become integrated into society. And you go there and you meet people in your neighborhood.
Right.
And
Gather with your people.
You're gathering. And now I think even immigrants would say they have the internet, they have other ways of socializing. I don't think we can depend on just people coming into the doorways of our churches, So I'm of the opinion we have to take the Great Commission, which means go and preach, make disciples, not just invite them to come to church, but go out to them and initiate these kinds of conversations. And so that's why I do what I do.
Sure.
And why I record the conversations, I'm trying to show the going.
Our church is involved with an international ministry on campus. There's like several churches in town. It's called Global Connections, and we had a Thanksgiving dinner Sunday. They always end up with 200 or 300 internet, and they'll just pick them up anywhere on campus.
Oh, that's great, yeah.
They pick them up, everybody donates food, and they come. I mean, they don't know what turkey is. They don't know, cranberry, and they have.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. We signed kids in one year, and, they're from all over. And it's just, you invite them to a thing, and I'm sure they talk some about Jesus. I haven't been to the whole spiel that they do there, but
yeah.
I mean, that's the point, and to reach out and befriend them.
Yeah. Our church does that too. We're a pretty small church, so and part of the problem is we're in inner city Chicago, and a lot of people from church are from out of town, and so they're going on Thanksgiving, on holidays, and leaving town, including myself. So,
are you right in Chicago?
Yeah.
In the north end, or
right by where the White Sox play? You can kind of see the stadium along the freeway.
I work there a lot coming in. It's just on the
on the south side.
That'd be the north side going in. Anyway, it's
as
on the
you're
left
headed
side
north, it's on the left
in.
side. Yeah. Yeah.
I remember many traffic jams down there.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's so we get a lot of international students from IIT and things like that. So, yeah, different colleges around there. But
Yeah.
it's good to hear of your. It's always good to meet fellow believers. Most commonly, if I meet other church people, I say, well, do you think what do you think happens after we die? Well, I think I'll go to heaven. How do you know you'll go there? Well, I'm working on it.
Yeah.
And then, so sometimes they'll say, you know, like, I look at my life, I think I'm going, or they'll say, I think I'm going because I'm a pretty good person. So I'm trying not to automatically just assume they think their salvation is based on good works, you know. Sometimes people are actually looking back in their life and they're realizing how God has changed them, and so the faith they have in Christ, they see evidence of, you know, a saving faith in Christ that's resulted in good works. And so that's what they're trying to tell me, but a lot of people make it sound like they're trusting in their good works, and then a lot of people are trusting in their good
And
works.
that is
not,
a noose,
you know,
that you can get around your neck, because at my age, I just turned 70, and I have 5 buddies of mine that range from 65 to 70, and we'll be talking about stuff, and something will come up that one of the guys will allude to the fact, you know, it's like, man, and we remind each other.
Yeah.
It's the grace. As simple as that is, you still got to be reminded of it.
Yeah.
Because you got that thing like, man, I'm terrible, Andy. You know the best and the worst about your own self. And we still have to remind each other of God's grace.
Yeah. Then again, a lot of people don't even know what grace is.
Sure.
I often say, well, you know that song Amazing Grace? You know, what makes that grace so amazing is that we don't deserve it, you know?
Yes.
And I'm hoping that song can kind of stick in their minds.
What a
you know?
song.
Yeah.
That has lasted for I don't know how long.
Yeah.
Grace is also our adorable granddaughter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then I often remind people, you know, like, if you could get to heaven by being a good person, you wouldn't need Jesus.
Right.
And they're like, that doesn't sound right.
Someone just said that recently. I heard someone say that.
Yeah, you're trusting in yourself. You're not trusting in Jesus. The Bible says trust in Jesus, and then you can respond with good works. That's what, you know, that's why we want to do that.
And he says there's none that are good. And
that's right.
The older you get, the more you understand that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It all goes back to grace.
Yeah.
Without
so I'm gonna turn this off, and I'm gonna
Okay.
ask you guys if there's something I can pray for you. I love to meet fellow believers and
Sure.
pray for them. So
That'd be
okay.
awesome.
All right.
Yeah.